women often have potential mates on the periphery of their lives. These could be coworkers or yoga buddies or friends of friends. They are men in her ambit where there is some acknowledged attraction that hasn't yet been acted upon. It's actually fairly common for women to have plan Bs, if not plan Cs, Ds, Es, Fs, and Gs, while she's still in her primary relationship. And women are generally allowed to do this socially because the standards for infidelity really revolve around overt sexuality. So as long as it's look but don't touch, as long as she acknowledges that she's in a relationship currently, a woman can keep options warm that can potentially be acted upon in the future. This allows her to strike up a new relationship quickly as there are men waiting in her proverbial wings.
Men going their own way have won. They've woken up and they're walking away from Western society, relationships, and even the workforce. Watch to the end of the video to fully understand the full implications of how men going their own way are reshaping society around us, affecting women, men, and society as we go forward. And now let's just go ahead and jump right into the video.
We're in evacuation zone A, apparently. That's the thing. If I could get out, I would, but where are we going? Everything is booked. There's nowhere to, unless you're hopping on a plane and evacuating your family, where is everybody going? I can't go north. Everything's booked. Where am I taking 6 kids and 4 dogs and 3 adults to? I can't go to a hotel. I can't go to a shelter like that. I would have to book like an Airbnb or something because I can't afford to do that. We just have to hunker down. Like, that's literally all we can do. And I just feel like we're sitting ducks now. I have 10 fucking ducklings to worry about. So even if they do mandatory evacuation, I don't know where am I supposed to go? We'll be the first zone to evacuate because we're zone A. They already did mandatory evacuation for the beach. Where am I supposed to go? Unless you put your family on an airplane, which I can't afford to do. It's supposed to be a Category 4 when it hits the Gulf of Mexico, and then hopefully go back down to a 3 before it makes landfall somewhere between Fort Myers, which is where we live, to Tampa, which is our only other retreat, our home away from home, that our family away from home that welcomes us in. We were there for a whole week for the last hurricane. We can't even go there because that's literally the second location that this hurricane might possibly go. We can't take the chance of being stuck on the road. We don't all even fit in our vehicle. We have a 7-passenger Suburban and we have 8 people.
You see, guys, when men wake up and say we're done with society, we're done with the games, we're done with the nonsense, this is what happens. Women find themselves alone. You have women who are single mothers. And when you have states of natural disaster, when you have extreme hardships arise, you know, the liberated women said, we don't need men. When hard times arrive, suddenly they're all looking for men. Guys, more and more men, 30 million men, over 30 million men have dropped out of the workforce. They're beginning to freak out. Society is beginning to freak out. Women are beginning to freak out. Even as they're throwing shade at men and attacking men and belittling men, they're all beginning to freak out. The media is beginning to freak out. Men are walking away. They are retreating. They're saying, okay, well, you don't want us, you don't like us, so we're just going to leave. We're going to stay home, or we'll go where we are appreciated. We'll go where we are celebrated. We won't stick around for this dumpster fire. It's only going to get worse in the coming years, guys, as we have more catastrophes, more natural disasters, more of these events, and men basically opting out of society. Men saying that it's not even worth the pay. Oh, you're offering $100 an hour to go and risk my life. And they're not going to offer $100 an hour. Many of them will offer 50, 40, 50 at best. They're like, no, $50. These lazy men don't want to get out here and serve their society. And you're gonna see women on television. Oh, it's terrible what these men are doing. It's absolutely terrible what they're doing. They have an obligation, okay? And we need to do a better job, and we need to teach boys to be more respectful and to honor their obligations and commitments instead of sitting around playing video games. The more that they take from us, the more that we'll just pull away and pull back. That's what happened with the Roman Empire. It's amazing how so many guys tried to silence me from telling the story of the Roman Empire. They cannot contradict me, but they don't like the story. They don't like the truth. The reason why the Roman Empire collapsed is because men walked away from society. People are like, oh, it's because of SLAVE labor, and they were relying entirely on SLAVE labor. Guys, why were they relying so much on that? Because men stopped producing. So they began using SLAVE labor for everything. To teach, to clean the streets, to work as doctors, to do the jobs that needed to be done because men walked away. Eventually, you had no one to protect the empire, and they explicitly could not use SLAVE labor to protect the empire, to work as soldiers. And so they had nothing. They were up a creek without a paddle, and all the wealth in the empire was being used to subsidize the living of women. And when the Roman Empire collapsed, because the barbarians realized the emperor had no clothes and pillaged the empire, we were plunged into 1,000 years of darkness. All those extraordinary privileges that women had enjoyed completely vanished. I've heard simps like Jordan Peterson say that men and women, our worlds never mixed. Guys, for 1,000 years, women worked alongside men in the fields during the Dark Ages. It happened even before that. But when everything collapsed, women had to work the fields. Except their status was lower than men, and they had very few rights. It was 1,000 years of HELL. And it's crazy. And this is exactly, guys, this is very much where we're headed to some degree. You know? Like The Handmaid's Tale is going to become a biopic at this point because men are being tortured and tormented in society just for simply existing. I've said this before that there's nothing more disliked and nothing more despised than the male in Western society. Society absolutely despises us and wants to use us and humiliate us. It wants to use us for whatever it can and humiliate us along the way because it does not like us. Women in Western society do not like us. They do not want us to be happy. They do not want us to have a moment of peace. This is how much they dislike you. They despise you having a moment where you are not constantly thinking about them. Your attention is not focused upon them, and your entire being is not focused upon making wealth and creating wealth and resources to hand over to them. These people do not like you. They despise you more than the cockroach. They have more empathy for a cockroach. They would advocate more to protect the cockroach. I want you guys to just wake up and understand that we live in a society where we are despised that much. Okay? Our society does not like us. It does not want us. It is only using us for its survival. Guys, with over 30 million men already gone from the workforce, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to start to see in the coming years that when there is a natural disaster and men are needed, there's not going to be any men. They're going to say, "What's going on? Where are the men?" When the country needs to be protected. Guys, you have Simps saying, the message is, we do not need boots on the ground. Guys, the Pentagon is saying we need to start a military draft because the current military is about to collapse. Okay? This is what they told Congress. And you have these guys who are like, don't listen. We do not need boots on the ground. We have artificial intelligence and drones to protect us. Why are these people saying this, guys? This is the danger of Simps. Sims will plunge us into a dark era. We're now in the age of stupidity. And if you give Sims the chance, they will plunge us into a dark era. Sims are a danger to society and a danger to humanity. Heck, they are a danger to themselves and they cannot stop. Sims will never stop until their lives are completely ruined and they're tired of suffering. And that's only when they will finally submit. And sometimes even then they won't. It will be until their last breath they will keep on simping.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to discuss the Bachelor tax and how the Bachelor tax might make a comeback in today's society. In the past, the concept of a Bachelor tax was not only a theory but a reality in some US states. Men who remain unmarried after a certain age were taxed as a way to encourage marriage, family building, and community participation. While these taxes were short-lived and widely unpopular, they did indeed represent a deeper societal expectation, and men were basically encouraged to become providers, family men, and contributors to the economic and social fabric. The Bachelor tax have appeared throughout history in various forms. In the United States, there were several states that implemented such taxes in the 19th century, oftentimes targeting men over a certain age who were not married. For example, there was the state of Michigan, which imposed a bachelor tax in 1827, requiring unmarried men to pay $1 annually, while Missouri proposed a tax on unmarried men over the age of 21. While these laws were often poorly received, they reflected on societal pressures men faced at the time. But the idea wasn't exactly all that unique to the United States. In ancient Rome as well, Emperor Augustus passed the Lex Poppaea tax, which penalized men who remained unmarried after the age of 25. These laws aimed to boost population growth, economic stability, and social order. However, they did not last, as the public backlash and enforcement issues often led to their repeal.
And here you have another man telling you about the exact things I've said regarding the Roman Empire and how the Roman Empire collapsed as the result of the actions of women and simps. Women were granted no-fault divorces. They began divorcing their husbands and running off with gladiators. Men walked away from society. The emperor at the time said that unmarried men, single men, were worse than all of the criminals in all of the Roman Empire. They were barred from going to the Colosseum. Single men were barred from going to the Colosseum and public events, so no theater, so basically no wrestling, no video games. They were forced during the winter time to run in the streets, chain gang style, as a punishment for not marrying, and they still would not marry. And within 100 years, the empire no longer had a military. It was no longer producing anything. No one was protecting the empire. And everything was being operated using SLAVE labor because men had walked away, and all of the wealth, everything that the empire had, was being used to supplement the living of women. Barbarians realized that the emperor had no clothes when he tried to pay the barbarians to protect the empire using land. They called the emperor's bluff, pillaged the empire, and we fell into 1,000 years of darkness. Men walked away. And as a result of men walking away, it was basically just a matter of time until everything fell. The Dark Ages were extremely dark. Imagine living in caves again and eating squirrel meat. There are many so-called historians on YouTube who would have you believe that the Dark Ages did not suck, bro. The Dark Ages were a living hell. They were terrible. They were horrible. To be clear, there were two parts of the Roman Empire. There was a part of the Roman Empire that still stuck around, but a lot of the technological innovations that we enjoyed as a result of the development of the Roman Empire, those fell away. For example, many of the engineering marvels, math and science, Roman, was it Roman concrete, something like that. Guys, all of that stuff was lost. All of that. There's all this BS like, oh, well, they wouldn't have found electricity anyway. Guys, they understood chemistry to a very high level because we're not even able to recreate a lot of the things that they had back then. So they had advanced levels of chemistry that even now we still don't have. The Roman Empire was basically a culmination of 100 million years or over 100 million years of human knowledge. And we lost so much of that as a result of the actions of women and simps. And you can never make these individuals happy, nor is it your job. And eventually, when they keep on pushing men too far, men just walk away and they leave everything to collapse. And the Simps are coming after me now, trying to silence me, saying that we're living in an echo chamber. Guys, it's hell on it's terrible out there. It is absolutely horrible out there what's happening in society right now. And what do Simps want you to do? They want you to be silent. They don't want you talking about it. Sims are terrible. And why are they on my channel? Why are they on so many? Why are they in the manosphere? Because they have nowhere else to go. The manosphere is filled with Sims because they have nowhere else to go. What do Sims do? They destroy societies. They destroy everything around them. And then they come and have a seat next to you. These people are terrible. Absolutely horrible individuals. It's sad and it's absolutely sick what they have done.
Number 1, playing video games. Number 2, collecting figurines. 3, magic tricks. 4, online trolling, gambling, building model trains, taxidermy, comic book collecting, and bird watching. For the unattractiveness score, the number 1 is video game. Well, I view men playing video games as a way they can let out their inner child. This is an issue I see with women. They nag and drone on about the things that men find fun and somehow make them problematic even when they're not. Women use social media and they ruin their family with it. They leave their husband, they post their arguments on the internet, and nobody cries about how social media is ruining women. But yet somehow video games are the root cause of all male laziness. And I just don't buy it. I think it's a way for people to undermine something that men have a tendency to love.
I keep warning you guys that these people don't like us. Taxidermy, online gambling, comic books, number 1, video games, the things that make that women find most unattractive about men. So basically, unless you are constantly worshiping them, giving them your attention, and out there breaking your back to provide them with wealth and resources, they will never be happy. They can never be happy, and they will torment you and slander your name. They despise us for even existing. It's getting to the point where so many men just want to leave. There's some of you who are horrible human beings. Some of you are terrible people. I'm just being honest. And you're like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to go out there and pick a fight. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, you're a horrible person. I'm being real with you. Like, you want to go out there and deal, like, these are terrible people and you want to go out there and pick fights? Like, go ahead, bro. Go ahead. I'm not getting mixed up with these people. I don't want that stress. Life is too damn short. And there's some of you are such jerks that you want to go out there and pick fights? Come on. Life is too short for this crap to go and get into arguments with simps and women in Western society. You know? Let them be. Let them be. Let them run their mouths. Guys, it's going to be hell on earth for so many of these individuals in the coming years because they're going to be facing extraordinary hardships as more men walk away from society. There's a comment from one of my subscribers, Jay Hall. She's a mother and a wife, and she says, while being single, childless, and unmarried can be a plus in an economic downturn, it doesn't necessarily mean you'll avoid economic hardships. And this is in response to my video, Singless, Childless, Never Married Men Will Thrive During the Next Economic Downturn. She continues by saying, many factors would need to be taken into consideration other than marital status, and or if one has children or not. And that's pretty interesting. Such things would consist of what kind of job you have, how much you make versus the money spent and prices during that time. Your mental health, physical health, knowledge of survival. Do you have a backup slash contingency plan? Age, availability of work during the economic crumble, etc. Everyone, unfortunately, in the situation of a economic recession is at the mercy of their skills, knowledge, and survival abilities, and this includes both men and all this includes both and all men, women, and children alike. But unlike the last recession, y'all men will have a comedy show like no other. All those hardcore, liberated women and women who turned men down based off the fact y'all had minimum wage jobs are going to be the first ones falling back on the oldest profession in history and banking on it for their survival. And by then, I hope the majority of men will have opened their eyes and not fall for the trap. Let this be the recession called the Great Fall of the Great Fall of Woman. Base guys, I called it many years ago. You know, the great V collapse of 2020. I thought it was gonna happen in 2020. Something else happened in 2020, so it got delayed. All right, but she says, let this be the recession called the Great Fall of Woman. Maybe this is what is needed for the return of traditional values and mindset, especially in women. So they're not going to ever come back. They're not going to ever come back to that mindset, guys. They won't. They will ultimately only double down, say they don't know what anyone is talking about, blame men for all of it. You have to understand, these people, they're just so far gone. They're so far gone that there's really nothing that you can do about the situation. There's not much you can do. You just have to accept it as it is. Because that's who they are. That's who these people are, guys. You're dealing with some really, really difficult people. But the thing is that most women don't understand is that the average man can live happily in a shoebox at the side of the road. I mean, if you look at this image right here, and it's captioned, "This is all a man needs to be happy." There's an Xbox One S on the floor that looks like an Xbox One S with there's an ear mat with a nice big television, all right, flat panel television, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, a backpack in the corner of the room, and an ear mattress. And that's pretty much it. And it looks like there might be some stuff like maybe, I don't know, like some drinks or something on the ground. And that's, guys, that's all men need to be happy. A place to sleep, something to eat, and a bit of entertainment. And men are happy. And no clutter, nothing else. The average man can live happily in a shoebox at the side of the road. The average woman cannot. And, you know, while Jay Hall said some very interesting things, she's not entirely wrong. A lot of men are not doing right now. You've got guys who make $200,000 a year and they don't have a dime saved, and they're like, "Oh, woe is me, my life is too hard. I can't. I'm suffering so bad." And you make 200K a year, little bro, and you can't save anything. No, the rent prices are just too much. And okay, bro, then that means that you need to downsize your living. And that's when they get pissed off with me. The very moment that I say, "Yeah, dude, if you can't afford to save anything, then you need to downsize. You need to go and rent a room, live in a room. You cannot afford your own apartment. You know, if that's how much it costs where you live, you need to consider remote work. Heck, at this point, could maybe even go live in a van." They get pissed off. They get pissed off, and then when they lose everything, they come right back to me with nothing, and they're like, "Angry Sama, get the hell out of here. Get out of here." I just want to remind you guys to go and check out the Angry Guy Clubhouse. You can get top expat and passport bro travel tips, digital nomad guides, and passive income strategies. Free subscribers get access to videos, podcasts, articles, and community chat. Plus, receive the passive income blueprint just for the subscribing. Paid subscribers unlock exclusive guides like the How to Build an Online Business in 24 Hours ebook, wealth building blueprints, and crypto updates. Join us now. Click the link in the description.
But you have to ask yourself, could something like the Bachelor tax return? If you fast forward to today, we might see a resurgence of such policies. I'll bet for different reasons. Modern society does indeed have a lot of disdain for single men, often labeling single men as failures for not marrying or providing. But more importantly, there's the economic factor at play. Single men, particularly those who live minimalist lives, don't contribute as much to the consumer-driven economy. They oftentimes don't buy homes, don't have families to provide for, and spend much less on goods and services. From an economic standpoint, this presents a challenge. As I've said many times in previous videos, it all comes down to money. Governments often rely on growing consumer bases to drive the economy, and single men who live efficiently pose a problem to this model. Many bachelor men can live comfortably on a minimal income, opting out of the whole family man lifestyle that requires higher spending on housing, education, and consumer goods.
You see, guys, when men stop subsidizing the living of women and children, all of that falls entirely upon the state. When men say no more, the state now has to take care of all of that on their own. Okay? This is the honest to goodness truth. And the state can't do it. Men pay 80% of all taxes. Women make 80% of all consumer purchases. Men don't need much. A lot of guys are happy with an Atari. A lot of guys are happy with Super NES. Okay? Me, PlayStation 2. Guys, you give me a PlayStation 2 and I'll load up all those games on like an SD card, because there's like a huge modding community right now where you can basically put in an adapter, just plug it into your PlayStation 2, and you can now use pretty much any PlayStation controller going forward. PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 controller on that. You can there's a new memory card adapter. I just done my research. You basically just stick it into the front of the PlayStation 2 Slim, and now you have access to all of your old games. So now you can play all of your games, like tons of games from the PlayStation 2 era on there. You know, look at this. Look at the image. Kids, not happening. That's the current generation. There's this notion now that, people coming into the States, the migrants that are coming in, they'll come in, they'll do the jobs that that men are leaving behind. Many of these jobs require high skills. Many of these jobs require people who have an invested interest in American society. So, for example, I used to work in an industry where I had to undergo a thorough background check. If I was not an American citizen, if I did not have like a squeaky clean record, if I did not pass an FBI background check, I could not do that job. And that was just working in the financial industry and insurance. Guys, when you start talking about some of these other jobs, even like some factory jobs, these jobs cannot be done by people who, like, for example, working in like Tesla, and some of these jobs at Tesla, they cannot be done by people who do not meet certain credentials that are set forth by the United States government. So unless the government changes their laws to allow these jobs to be done by people who do not meet certain background checks and qualifications, then it's over. And the more they try to punish men and demonize men, the worse it gets. Guys, I want you to understand that inflation is nothing more than hidden taxation. All of that stuff that people wanted, all of the money that the government's been spending, it's just recouping all of that using inflation. This inflation is artificial inflation that's being created by the state so they can recoup as much money from the people as they possibly need to and pay for the garbage that they want to without having people going crazy in the streets over it. It's theft. It's hidden taxation. And it's only going to get worse. But when men walk away, men reduce their spending. Men basically, they find all a man needs is a roof over his head and food in his belly. As once a man can cover those two things, I've got a roof over my head, I've got food in my belly, and I've got a bit of entertainment, men completely pull back from society. And society begins treating it like, oh, these men are so lazy, these men are stealing from society. But how are men are stealing from society if they're just using if they're just using social safety net programs that exist? And even if, and a lot of men won't even use them. They'll pay for their own health insurance. They'll cover their own health insurance costs. They'll pay for their food. They'll pay for their shelter. But guess what? These men are not adding to the economy. They're not driving growth. They're not creating new wealth. They're not, and so basically, they're not, if the only way that society can continue to grow is for men to do more, is for men to create wealth, is for men to make enough wealth so that families can be taken care of, so that women and children can be taken care of, because men pay 80% of all taxes and women make 80% of all consumer purchases. But if men opt out of this, take this into consideration. The average woman will leave a deficit on the economy over the course of her life. So she'll actually take more money out of the economy than she puts into the economy over the course of her life. The average man will leave a surplus on the economy over the course of his life. He will put more money into the economy than he will take out. But if men begin walking away in droves and stop contributing to the economy, then there's not much that society can really do. And the more that you penalize and punish these men, then the less money these men will make to lower their income bracket. And if you start just going after men, just outright saying, okay, we're coming after you, well, because you're men, well, then guess what? These men will just continue to opt out of society even more. And if you turn them into SLAVEs, then they are not stakeholders. They are just SLAVEs, which is essentially what we are today. And they won't produce wealth. They will just do just enough to survive. And that's about it. That's about it, y'all. Society has created such a miserable state of affairs that men no longer want to participate. And hence, men going their own way have won. Men going their own way, which tell men to walk away from society and relationships, have won, and they don't have to do anything anymore because of the way that men are being treated in Western society. Men are naturally making this decision. In the next economic collapse, you're going to find women in extraordinary states of poverty and destitution, and while this is happening, a lot of men will get rich or increase their wealth because they will not be marrying, having children, or getting into relationships. In fact, they will just simply cut back and enjoy their best lives, live their best lives. And the more that they try to attack men, indoctrinate men, and shame men, the less men will contribute and participate in society. I've already said this, that it's only going to culminate in the coming years of shock and doom and gloom when there are major catastrophes, when there's a natural disaster, when you need boots on the ground and there are no men. And people are going to say, well, what happened? Where are all the men? Men need to step up. We need men right now. Men need to step up, these lazy men. And the more they call men lazy, the more men will basically go whisper, no, we're not doing anything for you. All right. We're not your pets. It's going to be absolutely glorious. And women, of course, they have these giant egos, so they're going to stay all egocentric, but it's not going to do anything for them. Many women will be living in shelters, although they'll be so stockpiled, they'll have to live in their cars, and many won't have a car or afford to live in a car, so they'll be living on the streets or living in the woods. They chose the bear so so now they can go play in the forest. What do you think regarding all of this, guys? Do you agree that men going their own way have won? Let me know your thoughts and we'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA and walking away. And cheers.